Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Wild Knights podcast, hosted by a Knights fan.
And a Wild fan.
And usually we would be covering all the news and notes of the wacky and wonderful variety around the entire NHL. And that was the original plan for today's episode. There was a lot of news that had come down over the last week, whether it be the conclusion of the Yaroslav Askarov situation or the beginning of the Paralympics and the tie-in to the Humboldt Broncos tragedy, or the newest Golden Knights players finally getting their numbers revealed and players coming back to camp. But tragically, we don't get to talk about any of that today.
No, we don't.
And this is the kind of podcast that both Aaron and myself were terrified that we were going to have to make when we started doing this. I was really hoping we'd get more than 6 episodes into our run.
It's rough.
Before we had to report on something like this. But all of those stories have had to take a back seat to just the sheer unadulterated tragedy that struck last night.
So as most of you know, some of you may not, so I apologize if I'm the one delivering this news. Johnny Gaudreau from the Blue Jackets died last night with his brother in a unfortunate accident.
It's so sad.
I don't know what to call it at this point.
At this point, it's just a freak accident.
Yeah.
Like, for those of, and this is early, the news on this is just like kind of
this
fragmented.
broke like maybe a few hours ago.
Yeah, this broke at about 7 a.m. Central Time this morning. Is like it happened last night, but it's broke within the last few hours. Mm-hmm. The story is Johnny and his brother Matthew were out riding their bikes in New Jersey.
The night, like before his sister's wedding.
Yeah, on the eve of their sister's wedding. And they were just out riding their bikes, having a good time. Both of them are good hockey players in their own right. Johnny Gaudreau is obviously Johnny Gaudreau, Johnny Hockey, and his brother's he was carving himself out a nice career as well. But they were out riding their bikes. There was a driver of I believe it's being reported right now as a Jeep Wrangler, so not a small vehicle.
It was some sort of Jeep. It's been reported as a Grand Cherokee. It's been reported as a Wrangler.
It's the car. The type of the car isn't important.
No.
The driver was allegedly under the influence. He's currently under arrest for suspicion of a DUI. Went to swerve around 2 or slower moving vehicles and just, was in the path of these 2 fine humans on their cycles. And yeah. It's so senseless.
So safe to say we're not really talking about anything else today.
No, this
probably won't be a long episode either.
And it's not because we have nothing else to talk about, but it's because, as we're going to talk about in the next however long we talk for, I mean, Johnny Gaudreau is such an important player to the NHL and was such a big part of what some would call a changing of the guard that, we'd be doing him and his memory a disservice if we talked about anything else today.
And not only that, it's just like respect for his family, respect for what's going on. I mean, think about what his family must be going through, especially with one of his sisters getting married. Like, holy crap. So, and especially with the fans of like Columbus and Calgary, and just if you're a Johnny Gaudreau fan in general,
which there are a lot of.
There are plenty of those. Like it's something that takes a lot of processing, and so we don't want to just throw. We didn't feel like we could throw it into an episode.
Yeah, and that's also why we're talking with a slightly more stern, serious, and somber tone than we usually do, and we're going to try and keep that tone for as long as we can. Just out of respect.
I mean,
more than
for
anything.
this episode, yes. We'll see if it carries on to other episodes.
Oh, I mean, yeah, but this is just something that warrants a deep conversation.
Oh, yeah.
And so I guess we may as well start at the beginning with Johnny Gaudreau. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure, if I remember right, he was a 2011 draft pick of the Flames. I think it was, the 4th round or something?
4th round, 104th overall.
And that was fresh off the heels of winning a national championship.
He played for Boston College from 2011 to 2014.
And was a pretty good player.
Yeah.
Yeah, he won.
Considering that he played D1 Boston College for 2011 and he was drafted in 2011.
Yeah, he could play, obviously. And we know that now. broke into the NHL, made the All-Star game as a rookie, garnered the nickname Johnny Hockey. One of my earliest memories of him, this was back when the All-Star game still did the fun shootout as opposed to the serious shootout. And I don't remember whose play or what player it was, but they brought out one of the players' kids to like do the shootout. And then whoever went next wanted to do the same thing, but they didn't have any kids to bring onto the ice. So they grabbed Johnny Gaudreau and pushed him around like he was a 12-year-old, which was one of the single funniest shootouts from any All-Star game ever. And that was really my first introduction. And he was kind of a staple at every All-Star game. He was like one of those first really good players that got into Calgary. He was there before Kachuk got there. He was there before, Hanifin got there. He was there before like Markstrom got there. He was just kind of the beginning of the rise of the modern Calgary Flames. Like, because the Flames were a really, really bad team for a very, very long time. Like, no offense, Flames fans, but you know it to be true. Team wasn't very good. And then Gaudreau came around and he got his act together and he got Calgary a bit more on the map, made them a bit more relevant in the Pacific Division.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
I mean...
Or are you just going to let me keep going?
I was just going to let you keep going because apparently Boston College also released an official statement of their passing.
Ooh.
So...
Yeah.
That's what I was looking at.
Yeah, well, go ahead and read it if you want to.
No, I was going to comment because I wanted to comment on Matthew because everyone's going to be commenting on Johnny,
Yeah, go ahead.
But apparently Johnny and Matthew both played in the 2013-2014 season for Boston College.
Yep.
He went on to play professionally for 5 seasons and apparently served as a head coach for a boys hockey team at a Catholic school in New Jersey.
Yeah, ooh, that's very nice.
For the past 2 seasons.
Yeah. I'm also, it may not come as a surprise that both of us are going to be scrolling through Twitter and various other news outlets to try and keep up to date with what's going on.
Yeah, I was also just curious because I know that the whole everything that I've looked at this morning, like when you type in NHL, it's all about Johnny.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, like Johnny is a big player in Columbus. He was a big player in Calgary.
Yeah.
There are people that just stan him in general.
Yeah. No.
But I think it's important too to note that Johnny wasn't the only one.
I'm pretty sure. Let's make sure that that's not lost in all of this. Is that there are 2. But another thing about Johnny that I remember very, very vividly, and this is coming out of the one spring and summer that I didn't really care about watching hockey because the Knights had missed the playoffs. It was the series that everybody calls Jake Ottinger's coming out party in Dallas, that crazy 7-game series between the Stars and the Flames. And game 7, I think it was like overtime or double overtime. Who's there to put it in? Who's there to score the game-winning, series-winning goal at home in Calgary? Johnny Gaudreau. One of just the most exciting goals of that entire playoffs was Gaudreau's game 7 overtime winner in the Saddle Dome in Calgary to send arguably the hottest goalie in NHL history home in Jake Ottinger. And a pretty damn good Stars team. And it set up a Battle of Alberta, which was an amazing series. Set up a Calgary-Edmonton second round.
That sounds like it was amazing.
Oh, it was. There were, quick side note, because I'm pretty sure he scored in this game as well. There were more goals scored in game 1 of that second round series between Calgary and Edmonton than there were in the entire first round series between Calgary and Dallas. There were more goals in that first game than there were in 7 games combined for the other 2.
Fun.
But, he was a big game player, and after that, he did something that even I was surprised with. So this is where the Columbus Blue Jackets come into play. Columbus Blue Jackets have a bit of a shaky reputation. They've got...
I have routinely, I think, called them.
Not like...
Maybe not out on this podcast, but I've just noted it.
I mean, obviously, we've talked about... we actually haven't on this podcast, but I've talked about in passing the Mike Babcock situation and Columbus's messy front office situation. But that's not what we're here to talk about. What we're here to talk about is the weird culture thing that Columbus has. Great players don't tend to want to go to Columbus. Great players tend to want to leave Columbus. The 2 most recent I can think of, Artemi Panarin going from Columbus to New York on a super turbo maximum deal that made him one of the higher paid players in the league. And then, of course, Sergei Bobrovsky leaving Columbus to go be the goalie and now Stanley Cup champion with the Panthers.
Do you know why Johnny picked Columbus?
It was closer to home.
It was closer to home.
Closer to home.
He was impressed with the amount of fans that kept showing up, even though they were getting
bad.
their butts kicked.
And this is what makes this even more sad. Columbus had their best attendance year in a decade last year. It was they had the highest attendance rate of the last decade last year when the team was very bad. But people wanted to go see Johnny Hockey play.
Well, and he said that his goal is to give them more to cheer about.
And by God, he did that.
Yes, he did.
I mean, he put them on the map. They weren't exactly a relevant team. They've been like a footnote in history on a lot of things. Like they were one of the teams that had Jonathan Quick on his last year, or on the year he won the Stanley Cup with us. And, you know, they've had a lot of great players and they have so much youth and so much talent. And of course, who can forget the cannon? The cannon is so cool. I really do love the cannon. But I wonder what that stadium's going to look like next year.
I mean, kind of turning to Columbus a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, not going to speculate on how they're going to do this season at all because there's two things I want to talk about. One, they're obviously going to hold something their first game back.
Oh, absolutely.
They're going to do something. So I'm curious to know what that is. Mainly because I want to know. Obviously we all know they're going to do something. It's more how they're going to do it. What are they going to do? How big is it going to be? And then the other thing is, how do players, because I mean, like when you're in a locker room with players for 80 games a year plus 82 games a year plus practices plus playoffs plus training camps plus all this other stuff, you know, how do you come back from that? Like, how do you shake it off this close to the season?
You can't. Like, I mean, I'm just scrolling through Twitter. They're doing some work in the Saddle Dome in Calgary right now, getting the ice ready for the season. Mm-hmm. And they've got a tribute of Gaudreau up on the Jumbotron right now. There's a vigil outside of the stadium in Columbus. I don't know what that stadium is called. It's like Nationwide Arena, I think. I may be wrong. I probably am wrong. But that's been going since this morning. And this is it's sad. Like, frankly, it's really sad.
You were right. I think it's Nationwide.
Okay, cool.
It's just one of those things where, like, it just sucks, right? Because especially with someone like this who's been in the NHL now
over a decade,
11 seasons. He's been a part of the hockey community even longer than that.
Yeah.
He's not exactly old.
No, he was a young guy.
So it's like one of those things that's like, not like he was fresh, you know, like 2 seasons in and had his whole career ahead of him, or was, you know.
But he was an established top 20 player in the NHL. Like, he's one of the best. He was one of the best 20 players in the league.
Yeah, for sure. It's just one of those things where you process and you just do with it what you will, I guess.
Now, I don't know what they're going to do. I know they're going to do something. I do wonder if it could possibly galvanize the Blue Jackets to be really good. I mean, like
almost in honor of Johnny.
I mean, I remember what the Knights were able to do their inaugural season after the 1 October shooting. Like, they rattled off a ton of wins right off the bat. And
give something people to cheer about, basically.
Yeah, and the rest is kind of history. Mm-hmm. But this is a little bit more personal. Like, this is within the locker room rather than within the city. But
I wonder if people will take it and just be like, this is for Johnny.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely going to be tribute patches. There's definitely going to be a tribute. It wouldn't shock me if they like do a jersey retirement or something. Just because that's just kind of what happens.
Or do something like a giveaway night and just make it all about Johnny.
Yeah. I don't want to speculate because obviously
because we're not here to speculate about what things are going to happen, but we're just hoping that something will happen, and we know it probably will. I
don't know how the Jackets can recover from this.
I just really hope
like
that,
organizationally.
I just really hope that the people that were close to Johnny reach out and get help, whether that be from the family, from their friends, from, you know, from inside the organization, therapy, whatever you have to do. Because I think that, I really hope, and I know that it will, but I really hope that it doesn't overshadow their entire season.
It probably will.
Especially
like, this
close
is going
to
to
the
be
year.
the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, camp starts in like a week.
I know. And that's like, and the thing is, like, I'm not sitting here trying to speculate, and I'm not sitting here trying to, you know, do anything. It's just your heart hurts for
there's
people.
There's so many young guys in that locker room too.
Well, and your heart hurts for the people that are close to people that pass away, you know?
Yeah. My heart goes out to Johnny's wife and his 2 kids.
I can't imagine
what they're feeling right now. And yeah, it's just, and I didn't want to bring this up. I really didn't want to bring this up, but you know, I'm also chronically on Twitter, and
I know what you're going to talk about.
Let's keep it calm today, guys.
Yeah. Like no memes, no jokes.
Memes. I like to joke with the best of them. I don't post a lot of jokes, mostly because most of them are a little bit too mean to be published. But somebody tweeting out that the GM of the Blue Jackets woke up this morning realizing he now doesn't need to move $9.75 million in cap space. That's just in bad taste.
It really is.
That's
and
in real bad
the other
taste.
thing too that I wanted to mention now that you say that, how does management move forward
Carefully.
with trying to replace? Because the thing is that now you have a hole in your roster.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that to be insensitive, but
no, it's
something that the Blue Jackets office is going to have to contend with while they're all grieving, which I do not envy that at all.
They've also got to replace 20-some. I think he had 15 goals and a bunch of points last year in a injury shortened season. Like, as a macro, you've got to replace that. But I don't know. Like, I'm sure they'll be able to replace the production at some point, whether it be through trade or through signing or something. There's still
imagine the person walking in after this tragedy being signed. Dude. Like, that's going to be rough.
And it's I'm not even so much worried about them replacing the production, because they will eventually. The Blue Jackets
the thing
are
is
a competent
that
hockey team.
It's a cycle of hockey. You have a good team, and then you're kind of shitty for a while, then you're better.
But I don't know how they replace the human. That's my biggest concern.
Well, how do you replace the human? How do you replace? I'm sure he had a big presence in the locker room. Like, how do you replace that, and how do you get over that?
Yeah, the Jackets have so many young players that they've acquired in the draft the last few years. Like Kent Johnson is really good. They got the guy in the draft last year. His name is escaping me, but he was like a big deal. And those are 2 guys that I don't. It hasn't been reported, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that anybody under the age of 23 looked up to Gaudreau as one of those guys.
Well, and I'm hoping that the Blue Jackets organization in general kind of uses this as let's not play like we don't have Johnny. Let's play to honor Johnny and hopefully work with his family and hopefully provide them some support.
Yeah, I just it hurts. This hurts.
I know.
I really didn't want to have to make this episode.
I know. When you texted me, well, sad news, I'm like, oh God, what happened?
I really, really didn't want to have to make this episode this early, at least this early on.
I mean, it's the nature of podcasts, I guess. Like, you talk about things, sad things happen. Then you have to talk about the sad things.
I didn't expect it to be him.
I don't think anyone was expecting this, bro. Really.
He assisted Jaromir Jagr's last goal in the NHL. That's ridiculous. He will always be in history as the last guy to get an NHL assist on Jaromir fucking Jagr. He's an icon.
No, I know. And the thing is, he will be missed.
No kidding.
So
I don't know. I don't know. This sucks. And I feel really bad for Blue Jackets fans. I mean, you guys treated him well. He wanted to come to Columbus.
Yeah.
He wanted to break the cycle of great players leaving Columbus, getting good and then leaving.
Well, and it was closer to his family. It seemed like he really loved the fans.
They were building something. They had some forward momentum. And I really hope that this doesn't completely stall them because they're a good team. And they can be a good team.
I hope that they play for Johnny and honor him this season. And I honestly now I'm kind of rooting for the Blue Jackets.
Honestly, yeah, this is enough to make me root for the Jackets this year.
I'm really hoping that their fans and the whole league can kind of rally around them a little bit right now because they're gonna need it.
Oh God, yeah, they're definitely gonna need it. I feel terrible about this whole thing.
Yeah, because as much as we talk about implications of losing Johnny and all this stuff, like at the end of the day, he is a human being and people need to remember that.
Yeah, but at the same time, you can put these guys up on a pedestal. Like he was a leader in the community. He was a big role model. Mm-hmm. I don't know how they're going to be able to replace it.
Yeah.
Which is really sad.
And that's the thing, right? Is that throughout all the reporting and throughout all the things, like I have looked at countless, articles this morning about it. Most of them are reporting everything the same. It's one of the things where it's just like, you look at it and you're like, that sucks. And then you really look at it and you're like, oh shit, that actually
this really sucks.
Yeah, because like there's no other way to spin it. There's not.
No.
Like that's the thing about unfortunate accidents like this is that you can't spin it. You shouldn't use it for your personal gain.
No. Which is why I even feel bad recording about this in a weird way.
It's news, and I feel like if we were silent about it, it'd be weird.
Plus, we're not trying to, we're not here passing any hot takes.
No.
We're more reminiscing about the player that was.
Or like talking about what the Blue Jackets are.
Yeah.
How they're going to move forward from this.
Yeah.
While also trying to be central to the player.
Yeah. I'm reading the statement that the Blue Jackets have put out.
Anything interesting?
No. It's
besides like our hearts go out to the family. We feel this loss.
I mean, he was the quote, he brought a genuine love for hockey with him everywhere he played, from Boston College to the Calgary Flames to Team USA to the Columbus Blue Jackets. He thrilled fans in ways only Johnny Hockey could. The impact he had on our organization and our sport was profound, but pales in comparison to the indelible impression he made to everyone who knew him.
Yeah, and that's kind of the sentiment too BC had with their statement.
I think that is really all we need to say.
Honestly, I think so too.
It's a tough loss for the hockey world.
Yep.
There hasn't been a lot of tough losses, but this one's going to hurt for a while.
Yeah.
I mean, he's outside our fan bases, and I actively rooted against him for a few years in Calgary, but
the thing is, I think that's a good note.
That falls to the wayside.
I think that's a good thing to note, though, is that when something happens in the hockey community,
doesn't matter.
Teams don't matter at that point.
Affiliation doesn't matter.
No.
Teams don't matter. Past opinions don't matter.
Yep.
Because it's really easy to break things down to the human level. And so
yeah, I think with that, I think that's all we got to say today. So
yeah.
Thanks for listening.
And
we'll catch you next time. And we hope everyone takes care of themselves during this tough time.
Yeah. Stay safe out there, guys.
Yep. Catch you next time.